Today, we're tackling something totally fascinating, the psychology of the quiet mind. We're talking about those incredible individuals who speak very little, yet somehow manage to observe absolutely everything going on around them. If you've ever wondered what's really happening behind a quiet exterior, or, if you happen to be one of these deep thinkers yourself, we are going to completely decode the hidden mechanics of quiet observation. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever noticed that some people hardly say a word, but seem to just see everything? Whether you're the highly outgoing extrovert who tends to think out loud, or you're the introvert who prefers to hang back and watch the room, you have absolutely encountered this dynamic. Society so often mistakes a quiet demeanor for a blank mind. But psychology tells us a completely different story. Silence actually hides an incredibly active, vibrant mind, one that processes vastly more information than it ever actually expresses. And as we go through these concepts today, you're going to see exactly how that hidden machinery works. All right, phase 1, intake. This is all about observation over conversation. Now, what's really interesting here is the fundamental contrast between talking and listening. It sounds simple, right? Talking is giving information out, while listening is bringing information in. But quiet people inherently recognize a very basic truth. You literally cannot learn anything new while your own mouth is moving. By holding back their own words, they keep their intake valve wide open. They're consciously choosing to be receivers rather than broadcasters, so they're effectively absorbing all the data that everyone else is just freely giving away. So what exactly are they soaking up? Well, quiet observers are paying attention to the nuanced details that most of us totally miss. While everyone else is busy speaking or just thinking about what they're going to say next, the quiet mind is tracking micro-reactions. They're noticing subtle shifts in tone. They're logging long-term behavioral patterns. Imagine being in a really crowded meeting room. The loudest person is usually just focused on their own presentation, right? But the quiet person sitting in the corner, they're noticing exactly who looks uncomfortable, whose tone just shifted, how the group dynamics are playing out. This constant silent observation makes them way more hyper-aware than they might initially appear. And this is exactly why quiet folks pick and choose their interactions so carefully. There is just a massive difference between conversations that drain them, meaningless small talk, surface level chatting, and the deep, intentional conversations they actually crave. Look, not everyone enjoys talking about the weather for 20 minutes. If the talk feels empty, quiet people naturally withdraw. And this is precisely why they often seem reserved or aloof or even disconnected to people who thrive on casual banter. They aren't being rude. They're literally just trying to conserve their energy for conversations that actually matter. Moving right along to phase 2, the internal machine. Let's break down the mechanical journey a single topic takes through a quiet person's brain. Step 1, they process details internally first. They absorb rather than react. Step 2, they explore different angles and meanings. People who speak less, well, they often think longer. A really simple topic can trigger this huge cascade of internal thoughts, connecting to past patterns and future possibilities. And finally, step 3, they speak intentionally. By the time a quiet person actually opens their mouth to contribute, they've already mentally explored the topic from multiple dimensions, they've tossed out the obvious points, and they're giving you the distilled, highly processed results of their internal machinery. This is sort of the anchor point of this whole explainer. Silence is a fundamental part of how they understand things. If you ask a quiet person a question and they don't respond instantly, it is not because they have nothing to say. It's not because they're confused, and they definitely aren't ignoring you. It's because their brain physically requires the silent processing time to do its job properly. For them, silence isn't an absence of thought. It's the actual medium where their best thinking happens. Which brings us to phase 3, the output, comfort and protection. This brings up a really huge social divide. A lot of us just talk to avoid awkwardness, right? We feel this intense pressure to fill every single second of dead air. But quiet people, they are incredibly comfortable with pauses. In fact, silence just doesn't pressure them at all. They do not feel socially responsible for keeping every single moment filled with noise. They can sit in complete quiet with another person and feel perfectly at peace. They choose to speak only when they truly feel it matters. And that comfort with silence, it actually serves a much deeper psychological purpose. Quietness as a form of self-protection. This is huge. Some individuals naturally keep their thoughts private simply because they don't want to share everything they think or feel. To them, speaking less feels emotionally safer. Holding back words is a highly intentional boundary. It gives them total control over what others know about them, their vulnerabilities, their inner world. It's literally a psychological shield. Quietness isn't just some quirky personality trait here. It is a highly calculated form of emotional self-defense, especially in unpredictable environments. All right, let's wrap this up with our conclusion. Quiet does not mean weak. So, the crucial point we need to hit is this. The absolute biggest misunderstanding in society is looking at silence and buying into the myth that it just equals shyness, fear, or low confidence. But as our deep dive has shown us today, the reality is all about intentionality and strong presence. Quiet people simply do not speak unnecessarily. They curate their words. And because they aren't constantly flooding the room with noise, the words they actually do choose to speak carry tremendous weight, gravity, and influence. Quiet does not mean weak. In a world that just constantly rewards the loudest voice in the room, it's so easy to assume that silence equals submission. But choosing to observe, choosing to process deeply, and choosing not to speak unnecessarily, that actually makes a person's presence far stronger, not smaller. It's a quiet strength. It's a calculated power built entirely on awareness rather than volume. Which leaves us with this final, really validating thought. You are not antisocial. Your mind just works differently. If you identify with the quiet traits we've explored today, I want you to understand that your silence is an incredible psychological tool. It's your intake engine, your processing plant, and your armor all rolled into one. And hey, if you're the extrovert looking in, hopefully this explainer has shown you the rich, hidden world sitting right next to you. So the next time someone in the room goes quiet, I want you to ask yourself, what exactly are they seeing that everyone else is missing? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.